Okay, let's get into this. So this is the video I told you guys I was going to record last week. Evidently, it was a good thing I didn't because things have unfolded. Um, things have unfolded uh, quite extensively. Let me double check. Okay, my sound is recording. Getting good sound. Good. All right. So before we dig into this, This is about Daniel 8. A lot of people, most people, say. In fact, I don't even think I've heard anybody yet say anything, unless I just didn't find them, say anything about Daniel 8 happening now, and everybody disagrees. Well, pretty much everybody disagrees. Daniel 8's already happened. It happened way back when. Um, I disagree completely because this chapter literally is talking about the Antichrist. Well, clearly it didn't happen back then. There may have been a partial fulfillment, which would be this first half, but I think that now we're going to see the complete fulfillment, and that has some very, very powerful implications if what I'm seeing is true. Now, I could be wrong. There are men much smarter than me and much more well versed in this stuff than I am that most likely disagree. That's fine. I could be wrong, but I can't help but seeing what I'm seeing by reading this and just reading it in light of what's going on today, because there's some extremely stark parallels to what just happened in Israel. Now, I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over. So we're going to discuss that first. We're not going to discuss Daniel 8 just yet. We're going to dig into that. But what I want to discuss is they're not done. So an Israel Special Ops veteran says this is just the beginning. I 100% agree. Anybody who's been in military at all, who has fought in combat at all, will understand what this is for. If you guys remember, I've been telling you too. Oh, they're not going to attack. They're not going to attack. Okay, well, you don't take over a nation's complete airspace for no reason. You don't evacuate a major city for no reason. That's a major undertaking, and it costs a lot of money, a lot of fuel, a lot of resources. You don't do that for no reason. They did that because they were for sure going to attack these nuclear facilities. They knew exactly what they were going to do. Now, they don't tell us because that's operational security violations. You can't tell the American people what you're going to do. You can't tell anybody what you're going to do until after you've done it. And even then, the information is going to be limited. So there were not 3 bombers. There were 6 bombers at least. And I can say this because it's already been brought out. If it hadn't been brought out, I wouldn't be saying it because that's operational security. There was at least 6 bombers. I suspect there was actually more. I suspect there was anywhere from 8 to 10. But that's just me. 6 bombers. Each bomber has a 30,000-pound payload, give or take. So it wasn't just a couple of bunker busters. This was full payloads of armament dropped on these facilities, because you don't hit one spot to take out a facility. You hit multiple spots because they have multiple chambers underground with tunnels leading back and forth. So wherever your nuclear stuff is, you don't keep your operations quarters near that, because you don't want there to be any overflow of the nuclear radiation getting to the people. You have to keep it a distance away. So there's multiple sites. For every site they name, I can guarantee you there's anywhere from 3 to 7 to 12 sites they would have to bomb to get the entire facility. Just depends on how big it is. And I'm speaking from my own military background. You don't just hit one spot on the ground, you're going to probably hit multiple, which means they need multiple payloads of armament to be able to do this. And it's quite possible multiple passes were made by these aircraft. That's why I don't think there was even 6. I think there was even more than that, but I could be wrong. Again, they're not going to tell you everything. First of all, as the American people, as the normal everyday civilian around the world, you don't need to know what they're doing. You can't do nothing about it. You can't change it. It's irrelevant. You don't need to know. You're not there. You can't do anything to stop it or help it. Just, you don't need to know what's going on. And that's the smart way to do it. You don't tell somebody what you're doing before you do it, because then somebody's going to try to stop you. You just go do it. And then you give very limited information after the fact, because there may be continued operations. I guarantee you that there's continued operations. They may be in the process of bombing them again right now. Nobody knows it, because they have not given up the airspace control yet. They've not told people they can go back to Tehran yet. What does that tell you? So this isn't done. There's still more that's going to come from this, because Iran is going to retaliate. They have not taken out the key elements of the troublemakers in this. They just took out facilities and a few individuals. There's leadership. They have to take out the whole entire thing. So they're still going to have to go after people, and they're still launching. They were shooting at Israel last night. They were shooting at Israel this morning. So this is not done by any means. Now, what may happen here in America? We already see what's happening in Israel. What may happen here in America? They have terrorist cells here. If you don't think that or don't know that, then you need to get educated. They have many. They have 9 known terrorist cells from Iran in the Middle East, just in Texas. And they're up in North Texas. Most of them. I know of one down here by Houston that most people don't even know is there, but it's there. So the rest of the country's got tons, especially over to the East Coast and a bunch on the West Coast. And the Californians, better keep your eyes open. You see something, say something. Anybody on the upper East Coast, if you see something, say something. Pretty much anybody anywhere. Colorado's got a lot of them, surprisingly. So they're here, and they could be activated. Now, what they're trying to do now, because Israel's really good with the technology, they're trying to now is intercept any communications to see if any calls are going out. Hey, you guys need to do this, because they're going to track them down. They're going to stop them. Well, that doesn't mean they're going to get them all. Somebody could pull something off. We don't know. We won't know until it happens. But don't be surprised if something goes down here in this country. Don't be surprised if something goes down in any country that's associated with this. So this is one of the reasons why you see no other nation, they're all like, oh no, we're not involved. Because they know they could get themselves pulled into this if they even begin to offer any help. So they're standing back and they're just watching. And they're going to see how things should be dealt with. And you know, a lot of people will disagree with this, but this is how you deal with a nation that does what Iran is doing. There's going to be collateral damage. Let's be right up front, and this is going to make people mad. There's going to be collateral damage. You can't help it. You can't. It's not our responsibility to make sure every single innocent is out of harm's way. Some of them are there against their will. You can't save everybody. You just can't. It's impossible. But something has to be done about this nation, because they have been a thorn in the side of every nation of this world since, oh geez, I remember back when I was a teenager and we'd go buy fireworks for the 4th of July, and they had this little thing you could stick M80s in and little cutouts, and it was a picture of the Ayatollah, and it said Ayatollah go bangy. I wish I had one, because it's probably worth a couple $100, but it was a little piece of thin cardboard. It says Ayatollah go bangy, and you stick the firecrackers in it, because we were fighting with Iran back then. This is back in the 70s and 80s. So they've been a thorn in the side of the people for well over 50 years. They're an ongoing issue. They have to be stopped, because if they get the capability to do global damage, they're going to take out the whole earth. They don't care. And you're dealing with 3,500 plus years of ingrained mentality you cannot change. Now, to the credit of the Iranian people, the majority of them do not want their leadership. They don't want none of this. They're basically stuck there. They don't want any of this. They've, just 5 years ago, they were rioting in the streets against their own government. And there's a large Christian population there. Lord, protect your people in Iran. Most of them do not want any part of this. It's the leadership that's the problem. Hence why we are hyper-targeting the leadership. And the goal probably is going to be to take them all out. And that's probably what's going to happen. But here's the thing. You take out all the leadership, you got to install one, just like we had to do in Iraq. And that had stellar success right there. Messed that all up. Couldn't have possibly. Guys, my unit was one of the last units out of Iraq. They were begging us to stay and help them. Well, now look at them. And they're almost back where they were. Well, now Iran is abusing them and using them for their launching platform. But anyway, so this isn't done yet. There's going to be more come out of this. So don't believe what you hear on TV. You know, anybody who's involved in military, and like I said, there's some stuff we can't talk about. Even if we know this is what's going to happen, we can't talk about it. But you're going to get people come forward, like this spec ops guy is going to come forward and he's going to say, hey, it's not done yet. Now, he may not give any details, and there's some details we can't share, even if we know it. but I promise you this isn't done. There's going to be more come out of this. And this, I think this plays directly into Daniel 8, and you'll see why here in just a minute. For those of you that haven't seen those videos, I'll dig into that. Now, this is from Reuters, or whatever they call it. So here's Tel Aviv over here. You should be able to see my mouse on the thing there. In fact, let me double check and make sure you can see my mouse. Yes, you can see it. Okay. So here's Tel Aviv. That's Israel. And I don't believe this is north to south. I believe this is turned, because I think Iran is actually above them, going north, I think. So here's the sites they said they hit. So if you see where Tehran is right here, you remember where that earthquake was in Simnan? Simnan's over here. Notice there's an impact site there. I think that 5.1 was because they bombed this and blew this facility up. Right there. Now, where you see all these all this red triangles here, these impacts, that's same one facility with multiple rooms and multiple structures underground that they were hitting. That's why they had to take multiple payloads over there to get them all. Now, Israel's been hitting some of them. They say here, Israel airstrike here. Well, if they're saying that's the spot Israel hit, then that implies all this is from us, which means we blew the snot out of them. So what does this show you? There's at least 10 facilities, maybe more, that have been hit, not just 3. There were 3 main ones, and if you listen closely to the wording in the news reports, they'll say 3 main facilities. That's because they hit all these small facilities too. This is a major aerial operation. They literally bombed them into the Stone Age. Now here's Tehran. So supposedly there was one major facility just outside of Tehran. Why are there so many points of impact all over the place here? Because they hit multiple facilities. There's multiple places that were hit. This was all last night. Somebody texted me. Somebody is texting. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. So they didn't hit 3 facilities last night, guys. They hit multiple. They could have hit anywhere. They could have hit over a dozen. Now, keep in mind, these close together arrows could be multiple rooms of the same facility, but they hit many more than 3 facilities last night. Yeah, they were on fire. They was getting blowed up big time. So this was no small operation that was done over there. See those rockets? Those are like 350 millimeter rockets. Yep, that's big ordnance. So this was no joke. This was a major situation. Oh, here we go. Here's a real good example right here on this picture. Hopefully it shows it. Yeah, see? They show the 3 facilities, but then there's a research center. There's the fuel enrichment complex. There's a technology center. See, they bomb multiple sites. Don't let them fool you. Yeah, see that right there? Yeah, that ain't there no more. That thing's gone. There you go. Obliterated. It ain't coming back from that. I think major operation to come back. Now, where is that other picture? So, now here's what I was telling you. Like when they hit one site, but there's multiple impacts close together. This is why. These things aren't a single space in one area underground. It tunnels out and goes to multiple facilities, multiple entrances and exits. So you remember the pictures that you saw? Well, this is one of those parking areas with those buildings. Here's another one right here. This is a big complex here. I guess I don't know if they touched that or not. They might have. Probably did. All these tunnels lead to different parts of the facility. So when they bomb this, and this covers a large area, when they bomb this, they're bombing anywhere, they could bomb 7, 8 sites, but they're all part of the same complex. So it wasn't just a single bombing run, it was multiple bombing runs. And they have to hit them, because the one was half a mile underground. They have to hit them to get them, to take them out. So like I said, this is a major, major operation. Ain't no playing. Ain't no playing with this. And it's not done. Let's see another map of this. Here we go. That's not going to show me what I'm looking for. Here we go. So purple is a research institute. So they hit a research institute up here. Two of them here. Fuel production. So that's fuel for the rocket booster. It's a solid fuel rocket booster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 minimum. Whatever they show you, you can probably be assured there's more. That's just for the fuel. 16 or more. Several research institutes, a research reactor, 1, 2, 3 that they're showing. That would be your three main sites probably that they were talking about. Let's see. Tehran, one outside of Tehran. And this one here at Hamadan. And then nuclear power plants. They show one. And I think that is where Israel hit. I think Israel hit that one. We may have helped them by going deeper in the ground. But see, they can't do that too deep because they got to be able to get out of there. And there could be another circle hidden under here somewhere. But anyway, now you get an idea. This was more than just 3 sites. This was multiple sites they hit. Multiple sites. Yeah, see, this Fordo had 2,200 centrifuges to produce uranium enriched to 60%. That's pretty big. This one had 14,000 centrifuges. So that's a big facility, and it was way underground in order to be able to accommodate that. So what do we got here? Israel strikes in Iran. That's all the red dots. And Iranian nuclear facilities. So you can see where Israel hit. You can see the squares. Some of those squares, they didn't hit them. That's where we come in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 minimum. Okay, so it wasn't 3 sites, guys. Multiple sites. Look at this. Multiple sites. They basically smoked the majority of the country as far as these nuclear sites go. Yeah. They bombed the snot out of them. And as well they should, because this needed to be done. All right. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. So again, this is not over. They're not done yet. They're not done doing this yet. They're not going to be done doing it. Because this has to be completely taken care of. You can't just do part of the job and then leave, like we did in Afghanistan, like we did in Iraq. Look what happened to both those places. Look at the state they're in right now. There's still people trapped in those countries that can't get out, and we won't go get them until Trump says, hey, we're going after our people. So they're not done. They're not finished. When those planes got done and they left, and they said, yeah, they went back. We saw them going into, what was they were saying it was, I can't remember where they said it was at Qumran. I don't even know if it was Qumran or some of those. They said they're going back to refuel. Or Cairo or something like that. They're going back to refuel. They're going back to refuel and reordinance. They're going to go back in. They're going to hit these sites again, because when you drop the bomb and the first part of a Moab will loosen the upper strata, and then when the next one falls in, it pierces through, and then it explodes and collapses everything in on top of whatever's in there. Well, they can go back and hit those sites again and collapse it even more. There's no reason why they shouldn't, because the idea is to make sure that it is completely sunken into the ground, and if anybody's trapped in there, they're trapped in there. You ain't getting them out. But the idea is to so disable these sites that they cannot be fixed. The undertaking would take decades to repair all the damage done, because they're breaking up the infrastructure of the ground. You can't even go back in and pour concrete again, because you have to shore up everything first. So this goal is to do as much damage as possible. And of course, Iran is retaliating. They are retaliating with great prejudice, with everything they have left. Now they are running out. And also keep in mind, the majority, they're not even in Iran. They're in Syria. They're on the borders of Israel. That's where all the attacks for Israel are coming from. It's from the border. They're down there in Syria, so they're not even in the country to defend it. A lot of good it's going to do anyway. Here's Newsweek. And again, everything with a grain of salt because you don't know. Okay, hopefully that'll just stay like that. Stay muted. So here they're showing you, this is where we hit the 3 sites. No, we did not hit 3 sites. I just showed you we didn't hit 3 sites. We hit multiple sites. Major sites. Yeah, so this is big. Oh, these pop-ups. Your website's got to do something about these pop-ups. You can't even see the content. Anyway, so there's a ton of information you can go look at here. It's easy to Google. That's all I did. Now let's back out of this because clearly we know what's happening. Clearly we know what's happening. Actually, let's leave that up in the background there. There we go. Okay. Daniel 8. Now, I think what we're seeing happen is Daniel 8. And I've told you guys before, we talk about, well, Israel is hitting Iran. Okay, well, that's been happening for years. There's no surprise there. They're always going back and forth at each other. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes they are. They have been. And I said, as long as it's just those two, don't worry about it. Somebody may loosely step in and throw something. No big deal. Don't worry about it. When you see the U.S., if you see Russia or China get in, that's one thing. If you see the U.S. get involved, then we got something to sit up and take notice of. When another nation steps in to help, that's when we need to pay attention. Now, Israel only has one helper in the world, us. This brings me to Daniel 8. I think, because there's mention in here, a goat with a notable horn. I think that's us. And you're going to see some stuff here. And it's kind of funny because it literally jumps off the pages of the news because most people don't even know what's going on as far as these protests go. Do you know what these protests are called? Yeah, we're going to get into that. Okay, so let's read a little bit of this first. Daniel 8:1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me. To me, Daniel. Why to me? That sounds like that's what he's asking. What, me? Why me? After the one that appeared to me the first time. I saw in the vision, and it so happened while I was looking that I was in Shushan, the citadel, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in the vision that I was by the river Ulai. So Shushan, or Shushan, Shushan is in Iran. I know this says Susa, but it's Shushan. That's how they pronounce it a little bit different. Like the name of the city called Qum is Qom. So this is Shushan. Shushan, the citadel. Susa, exploring Persia's royal ancient capital. Now, let's look up. So the river Ulai, Elam is also there, and next to the city of Susa or Shushan. Daniel in the city of Susa or Shushan. The citadel, which is a royal residence at that time. I believe the citadel is still there. Maybe not. It might not still be there. I think in one of my videos I had actually found an image. See, this stuff changes constantly, so. All right, let's go back to all. So this map, you can see there's Shushan and the Ulai River. So there's Babylon, which is in and the Euphrates, which is in Iraq. So this is just over in Iran. So this used to all, actually most of Iraq used to be Iran, way back. So this is where Daniel was. And it's funny because it's pretty close to Israel. So no surprise, they were all in captivity over in Babylon there for a while. And so they were carried over. He was carried over there because he was staying with that particular leader at that time, Belshazzar. See if there's anything else. Let me see if I can find the citadel. Yeah, I think a portion of it is still standing. The UNESCO World Heritage Site. So I believe Daniel was in this tower. If you can see my mouse cursor, in this tower up here is what he was describing, because supposedly he was in a tower seeing all this stuff. And the river is just like almost right next to us. In fact, is that it there? No. Oh, the river's not far away from the citadel. Yeah, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so they're trying to piece it back together. They want to bring up all the old cities in the old world, not realizing what they're going to do to themselves by attempting to do so. So the river's right near here somewhere. So Daniel's up here. He's watching everything that's unfolding. He could have been in this tower right here too. So we don't know. We weren't there. So this is what you're looking at right here. So this city still exists in a form, in a fashion. And the citadel still exists. So this is where Daniel was. So we can literally go from Daniel Lake and go look right at where he was at. He was on the river Ulai, the province of Elam. He was in the citadel in Shushan. So we can go and actually look where he was. You can travel to the site. So this is a real place. Verse 3, then I lifted my eyes and saw, and there, so he's in Iran. So this is a prophecy about Iran, basically. And there, standing beside the river, was a ram which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. So horns in the Bible always refers to leaders or governments. And the higher one came up last. So the shorter horn came up first, but then the higher one came up after. The higher one had more authority. That's the leadership. That's their government. We just took that out. We just destroyed those horns. Verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward. Now, this is interesting because I saw a news article the other day. I don't know if I could find it, but I saw a news article where they were talking about how Iran was pushing these same directions. They mentioned it, almost like they were reading this verse. So that no animal, and animals are always a representation of countries, could withstand him. You read in the book of Revelation about the animal with multiple parts. It's a coalition of nations. All the parts coincide with a nation today. No animal could withstand him, nor was there any that could deliver from his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. That's what Iran has been doing, literally been doing. Now, in the past, this could have been related to the Ottoman Empire, which is the Roman Empire. And they covered a vast area of land. And they went on for like 250 years or something like that. So this could also be a reference to that. But more specifically, we're dealing with Iran because it talks about that because the interpretation of this is given later in the chapter. This is the great thing about the Bible. You don't have to suppose. You can go read it. They tell them what it is. And we'll see that. Verse 5, and as I was considering, so he's watching this going, what is this? Suddenly a male goat came from the west. Male goat from the west. So let's open up Google Maps. Let's back out. Oh, thank you. So there's Damascus, Syria. Actually, it's funny when you look at the original maps, the original borders, Israel actually covered a large portion of all this out here. Part of this over here. Actually, it went way down into Egypt. So here's Iraq and here's Iran. So is this, make sure this is facing north to south. Okay. Looks like it is. All right, so this entity comes from the west. Now, Israel come from the west and go into Iran. Israel can do it. I believe before I had the map turned a different way. I'm trying to find the compass. Usually they have a compass on there to show you which way you're aiming. I don't see it. Anyway. Okay, so Israel can come from the west. But let's read more details about this goat. As I was considering, suddenly a male goat came from the west. Suddenly, out of nowhere, it happened. Across the surface of the whole earth. Okay, so if Israel came, they wouldn't cover the whole earth. In fact, nobody has a bigger air force than we do. And when I read this, the goat came across the whole earth without touching the ground, that tells me that's an airstrike. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So this tells me that whoever this nation is, that it's coming across, if it's coming across the whole earth, it's sweeping a very large area. Of course, obviously, it's not the entire earth, but the indicator is it's big. This is a big movement. This is a big goat, a big deal, coming across the whole earth without touching the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Now, when we get to the interpretation in the second half of the chapter, you'll start to understand what this is referring to. Then he came to the ram that had two horns, which I'd seen standing beside the river, and ran at him with furious power. He got mad. This goat was angry, furious, and charged the ram. And I saw him confronting the ram. He was moved with rage against him. I wonder why. See, this sentence here kind of says to me maybe something's going to happen that hasn't happened yet concerning maybe us. I don't know. Or maybe Israel. They're still attacking Israel, by the way. He was moved with rage against him, attacked the ram, and broke his two horns, took out the leadership. There was no power in the ram to withstand him. It took out all their ability to be able to respond or to stand up. But he cast him down to the ground and trampled him. This is utter desolation, utter destruction. And there was no one that could deliver the ram from his hand. Have you seen anybody try to stop us from attacking him yet? Nope. You're not going to either. But just wait. This gets better. And now that this stuff has happened, it paints a little more clearer picture here. Verse 8, therefore the male goat grew very great. So whatever this nation is, or whoever this is, I believe it's us. Whoever it is going to get real powerful and real strong after this event. Economy's going to be good. Everybody's going to be happy. Things are going to be going great. Everybody's going to be the golden palace, I guess. But when he became strong, the large horn was broken. So remember, a horn is a leadership. I find it interesting. This goat with a notable horn. And Trump. Go horn, Trump, horn, Trump. Trump is a notable person. I don't know. I'm just throwing pieces together to see what happens. And in the place of it, four notable horns, notable ones came up toward the four winds of heaven. Now, back whenever the Roman Empire collapsed, it was broken into four pieces given to four generals. And here's the thing. The stuff that was supposed to happen after all this did not happen back then. It didn't play out. Because there's more to this prophecy. Verse 9. And out of one of them came a little horn which grew exceedingly great toward the south. If that's the U.S., then that would be Mexico. Toward the east, which is toward Israel, or all points east, and toward the glorious land. The glorious land is Israel. Hmm. And it grew up to the host of heaven. That's this horn. Now, who is this horn? It's Satan. It's the Antichrist. And it cast down some of the host of heaven, and some of the stars to the ground and trampled them. Hmm. He did take a third of the angels with him. He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host. You know who the prince of the host is? It's Jesus Christ. And by him the daily sacrifices were taken away. Where else do we read about the daily sacrifices taken away by the Antichrist? Uh-huh. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down. See, these things haven't happened yet. Now, there was a type of them happened back then. I believe 70 AD is where a lot of people attribute this particular part. Verse 12, because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices. That would be the midway point of the tribulation. And he cast truth down to the ground. He did all this and prospered. So there's the prophecy. This is an end times prophecy, and the interpretation comes from verse 13. Well, verse 15 on, but 13 we get into it. Verse 13, now here's where we start to get into the nuts and bolts of this. Then I heard a holy one speaking. And another holy one said to that certain one who was speaking, how long will the vision be concerning the daily sacrifices and the transgression of desolation, the giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot? And he said to me, for 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. 2,300 days. That's 3.5 years plus 45 days, give or take. And then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. Was the sanctuary ever cleansed back then? No, I don't think so. But it will be when the Lord returns. Okay, now we get into the interpretation of the vision. Now, a lot of people say it's just angels that are talking here. I believe one of these entities is Christ. Verse 15. Now we get into the description. Then it happened when I, Daniel, had seen the vision and was seeking the meaning. I imagine Daniel was probably at his wit's end. What is going on here? I'm witnessing this unfold. What's happening? And he described it in the best way he could for what he knew at that time. That suddenly there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. Is that an angel? Can be. I think it's Christ. And I heard the man's voice between the banks of the Ulai who called and said, Gabriel. So it's somebody in authority, because he's telling Gabriel what to do, and Gabriel's an archangel. Make this man understand the vision. I think that appearance of a man, I think that's Christ, because he speaks with great authority. Verse 17, so he came near where I stood. And when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, son of man. Interesting that he uses that particular description for Daniel, that the vision refers to the time of the end. Did the end happen 1,500 years ago? Did the end happen 2,000 years ago? Did the end happen 2,500 years ago? No. The end hasn't come yet. We're living here right now, and the end hasn't happened. This is the time of the end. Now, this is right here is why I think, because when I was reading this, I didn't catch it until this verse. Here's the time of the end. This is an end times prophecy. This did not happen in the past. This hasn't happened yet. This hasn't been fulfilled yet. Time of the end. The end hasn't come. Now, amillennialists will believe that it has. And I think this is where a lot of them get their idea that Daniel 8's already been fulfilled. I don't think it has. I think we're watching it happen literally real time. And like I said, if I'm right, if what I'm seeing is correct, and this is actually a prophecy being fulfilled in our viewing on the world stage, the implications are staggering. Let's get into this a little deeper. This vision refers to the time of the end. So we don't have to suppose when this is going to happen. It tells us when it's going to happen. This angel says, this is when it's going to happen, Daniel. Verse 18. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep with my face to the ground. but he touched me and stood me upright. He was passed out. Couldn't take it. Verse 19, and he said, this Gabriel said, look, I am making known to you what shall happen in the latter time of the indignation. Where else do we see a mention of an indignation? And what is it referring to? Because every time I see it, it's always referring to the tribulation. Every single time. Every single time. And this is the latter time of the indignation. So it's getting towards the end of this. For at the appointed time, the end shall be. Verse 20, the ram which you saw having the two horns, they are the kings of Media and Persia. Okay. Let's do this. And let's do modern day Media and Persia. Modern day nation of Iran. Their significant role. It's thought to be the nation of Iran today. According to the archaeological evidence found in modern day Iran, cuneiforms that date back to the Achaemenid era tied to the name Parsa or Persia to present day Iran. In 247 BC, the Parthian Empire, known as the Persian Empire, covered much of the Middle East and Asia Minor, and included the territories where the nations of Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, parts of Georgia, Turkey, but Georgia would be Russia, Turkey, Iraq, and even some parts of Saudi Arabia are located. This is a big empire. So where he was well inside the borders of back then Iran. Now modern Iran is much, much smaller. So we can tell quite specifically Media and Persia and what they are. So we can go look at that today. Now, back then, it was much bigger, obviously. A large portion of Iraq was included in it, and Israel actually at that time probably extended a little further into Iraq. But yeah, it's pretty clear who we're talking about here. Kings of Media and Persia. So he saw a representation of Iran. Okay, so there's our center. We're dealing with something going on with Iran. Because today that's the only thing, unless you want to include the other countries, you're still talking about basically Iran. And have we not fought the other countries too? Oh yeah, we've had military movements ever since the late 90s? Starting with the Gulf War. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. When we're talking about the male goat. So in verse 21, he says, and the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. The large horn that is between its eyes is the first king. Now, let's go to maps. Where's Greece? Where are we dealing with Greece at here? There's Greece. This little bitty country right here. Now they are to the west, so yeah, it would make sense. Greece is right there. Are they coming across the whole earth from there? No. They're not spanning the entire earth coming from there. That's a fairly short distance. So who would be coming across the entire earth? Now, what we have to do is we have to step back in here and we have to switch over to King James Plus. And the rough goat is the king of, in the King James it says Grecia. It doesn't say Greece. It says Grecia. And the Hebrew word there is Yavon, probably from the same as, let's open this up here. hoping to open over there, but that's all right. So Yvonne, get out of there. Come on, there we go. Yvonne, same as H3196, effervescing, that is hot and active. So they're on fire. Yvonne, the same name of the son of Joktan in the race of the Ionians, that is Greeks descended from him with their territory, also a place in Arabia. Now, in the previous video, I dug a little deeper into these Ionians. It was pretty interesting because some of the information seemed to indicate that a lot of them moved over into what is now called North America. How funny our system of government, and even a large portion of our architecture, if you've ever been to Washington, ever looked at the pictures of it, is Greco-Roman in nature. Our way of governing is Greco-Roman in nature. The way to do our laws and all that stuff is all Greco-Roman in nature. Tell me that doesn't look like the Pantheon. The Roman Pantheon. The Greco-Roman Pantheon. You know, a lot of this is written in Latin, and some of it's even written in Greco-Roman when you go up there and look at some of the inscriptions. Let's see. Almost a mirror image. Wow. So where do you think we get all that stuff from? Look at that. That's the Pantheon. And we jump back. And there's one of our buildings. What building is that? Archives of the United States. Almost looks exactly the same. How weird is that? Look at how it's all over the place. That same entrance is everywhere. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's right in front of our face. I mean, how can a person not come to the conclusion I'm coming to by looking at this? It's right there. That's literally Greco-Roman architecture. There's the Roman Pantheon and all that. I mean, come on. So in one of the previous videos, I think you can find them all, and this one will also be in the playlist for Daniel. You should be able to find them all there, or look in the prophecy playlists, which you dig around, you'll find the videos. There's so many. But I talk about that, dig into these Ionians and who they are. I'm going to try not to do it here because I don't want to go too awful long now, because I still got some errands I need to run today. But you can see that's not, doesn't really sound like it's talking about Greece. Now, in the New King James, they translated to Greece because it's easy. But you do your research, you find out, well, that's not really, doesn't really sound like it's talking about Greece. Talk about something different. And these Ionians, very interesting history to them, and it seems like a lot of them came to North America. How interesting. So there's almost like there's a clue or a connection here to the United States. Now, first king. Let's go back here and look at this first king thing. The horn between his eyes, that nation's first king. Remember those protests we talk about? They're called No Kings protests. The No Kings protests, also known internationally as the No Dictators or No Tyrants protests, were a series of demonstrations that took place on June 14th, 2025, so they just happened. Some of them just ended a few days ago. Largely in the United States against Donald Trump's policies and actions during his second presidency, including his purported fascist tendencies and associated Democrat backsliding in the U.S. You know, in his first presidency, they called him a king. They constantly referred to him as a king. Now they're talking about no kings. We don't want a king. We don't want Donald Trump as a king. Donald Trump's not a king. but is he slowly, without realizing it, becoming one? Are we not, by protesting no kings, making him a king? I don't know. Just saying. This isn't the first time they've done this. They did it in his last president, his run as president too. So this is what the no. See, I didn't know what the no kings thing was until a few days ago. I had to look it up. I'm like, why is it called no kings? What is it? What in the world does that mean? No kings. They don't want kings. They don't want Trump to be king. You know, the United States is the only nation in the world that's never had a king. Well, they're saying modern Germany has never been a monarchy or a dictatorship. That's untrue. Well, not modern Germany, but the past they had one. So Germany as a nation has had a king and even a dictator in the past. So all these now these countries, many of these countries don't, but all countries have had a king at some point in their history. A lot of them have come down. You know, the U.S. and you do a deeper search into this, the U.S. is the only nation that's never had a king ever. See, we had a king, but we weren't the United States when we had a king. It was basically British territory, is what they were claiming, but they did not officially take it as their territory. That was the thing, is that when they sent troops over here, they had not taken it. They didn't even win that incursion. They were run out by the Minutemen. So America as a group, as a country, as a group, a territory, never had a king, never officially had a king, because nobody had any control over it. It was at one point it was under the Ottoman Empire, but then that fell down. Then Britain decided it wanted to claim it. Mexico took a piece of it, but that all got obliterated before anybody laid any special claim to it. This whole king talk, they even talk about Biden being a king too, when he was president. There's all kinds of stuff. I shared some images on that quite a while back. So America's never had a king, ever. Every other nation at some point has had a king in its history. We've never had one, ever, in our history. Ever. First king? Let's see. First king, so it's Rishon or Rishon. First in place, time, or rank. So it would be for all of history. Ancestor, before, time, beginning, eldest, first. So it'll be the first ever king, Melech. Literally a king, royal. I think that's what we're witnessing. And, you know, it could change. This could actually go further as far as him becoming basically a king. It's not outside the realm of possibility for America to turn into a monarchy. Just saying. Just saying. That could be a good indicator of who we're talking about here. I think it's the U.S. I think what we're seeing. When have they ever called a president a king? Ever? You go back and look at all the presidents that came before Trump. They never called any of them kings. It is only whenever he became president they started this whole king stuff, and now they're protesting no kings. Why would they protest no kings? Why is it they're the only ones that know about this? They know something we don't. Trump could be our first king, or somebody who comes after him could be. We don't know. As for the broken horn and the four that stood up in his place, verse 22, 4 kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power. Now, this happened during the Roman Empire. For the most part, it didn't break up into 4 equal pieces. It broke up into 4 main chunks, and a bunch of little chunks went out to other places. They took those territories. But those 4 generals, after that one guy went, whoever the Caesar was, you have to excuse me, I'm a traumatic brain injury. I can't remember all the details. But the bulk of it, the core of it, broke into 4 pieces. That's where it stopped. Nothing happened after that. That's where this comes in, because something happens after this. So whatever this nation is, breaks into four pieces. Now, if the implications are that this is the United States, and it very well could be, I might be wrong, but it very well could be. If this is the United States, then at some point in our future, probably the next couple of years, we're going to cease to be a nation. And we're going to break into four pieces. And those four pieces will be ruled by an individual. Did you know that when Obama, well, actually it was before this, but mainly when Obama became president in 08, in 09, states started to file petitions to secede from the Union, to break the nation up into 5, possibly 4 pieces. And they've been doing it ever since. Now, when Trump was in, they didn't do it. But you know, when Biden got in, they started it again. They actually have the lines drawn and the states drawn. You know, the state of Texas already has a constitution. It's going to break up into 8 different pieces to be its own individual state. All the southern tier states, plus the southern part of California, all said, we'll join you and become one single piece, one single nation. The rest of the country will break into 3. It's 4 nations. They've literally been talking about it for years. I've talked about it in previous videos. How interesting. You know, the Ottoman Empire, or the Roman Empire, collapsed after 250 years. You know whose 250th birthday is next year, July 4th? America. I'm just saying, there's a whole lot of interesting details here that are starting to come together really specifically. And I think all this together is starting to tell us that this may be it. And I've already seen a few people start putting videos out talking about Daniel 8 and saying how we're starting to see some parallels here. So I've been talking about Daniel 8 for years, and now people are just starting to put it together. The closer we get to it, the more we start to see it. Verse 23, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, so the latter time of this, when this is unfolding, and the transgressors have reached their fullness, not 100% sure what that's referring to, could just be lack of belief. A king shall arise having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes. What are the sinister schemes? This may be an indicator. Understanding dark sentences in the King James. Well, come on. Dark sentence, kidah, a puzzle, hence a trick, conundrum, sententious, dark saying, speech, or sentence, dark question, or hard question, proverb, riddle. Somebody very smart. This is going to be the Antichrist. I talked about this back in the beginning of my ministry because this jumped out at me when I was watching news articles and stuff back during Trump's first presidency. There was one individual that really stood out amongst all the people he had on his council. And you know, this guy's still on his council. He's still behind the scenes. In fact, he popped up in some articles here just recently, yesterday. And he has a very fierce countenance. He has a strong, vehement, harsh, fierce, greedy, mighty, power, roughly strong countenance. Panim. But always, it's plural, but always uses singular, and an unused noun. The face is part of the terms, used in a great variety of applications, literally and figuratively. You can read the rest there, but it kind of paints a picture of an individual. This guy, back during Trump's first presidency, Netanyahu literally said, if he would accept it, we would give him the keys to Israel and let him run the whole thing. They all but begged him to do it. He said, no, that's not where I'm supposed to be. It's also interesting that I did a trace on his family history. He comes from a very specific town where they love the Kushner name. They love it. They said they're a great family. That particular place was part of the Roman Empire, where they're from. It's right near Poland. And it was part of, what's the other thing? They talk about him being an Armenian or something like that. It's part of that area too. So his heritage literally comes from that place. Now, I don't know about the number of his name. You do use gematria, you don't get it right. Gematria is demonic anyway. But I tried to find a search about his family history and how many members there are going back, and I can't find it. I'm wondering, because his name starts there. I'm wondering if that's because the book of Numbers shows you how to figure the number of a man's name. And if you do it that way, you start to find some interesting numbers coming out there. And I'm wondering if maybe that's how his number reveals it, but that's why you can't find it. I've searched and searched. I cannot find it anywhere. I'm wondering if it's being hidden on purpose. Anyway, personally, and I've always believed this since I started this ministry, I believe Jared Kushner has the highest probability of becoming the guy. I could be wrong. He may not be. But I really find it interesting that when they came up with the Abraham Accords, it wasn't Trump that came up with that. It was Jared Kushner that came up with that. He is the full architect of it. He's always also the one that went back and forth making the deals, and still to this day goes to these Middle Eastern countries working peace with Israel on these accords to this day. Now, the Abraham Accords were for 5 years. That's coming up. The end of that's coming up. So all he has to do is confirm it for 7. There's your peace agreement. Just saying. We're looking at modern time things here. It may be this is unfolding before our very eyes. We're just not seeing the details and applying them. Hence why I'm sharing my opinion. And this is my opinion. Understanding sinister schemes. Having fierce features who understand sinister schemes. Verse 24. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Somebody else will give him the power. He shall destroy fearfully, and shall prosper and thrive. He shall destroy the mighty and also the holy people. You know, in the book of Revelation, it says that the Antichrist, I think it's the book of Revelation, it says the Antichrist is going to take all the rich people that sided with him, is going to take all their money away and put them down in the dirt with everybody else. He's going to destroy the mighty, the rich people, and also the holy people. Verse 25, through his cunning, he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule. So this is giving a very specific time frame on when this is going to happen. And he shall exalt himself in his heart. He shall destroy many in their prosperity. So here again it says it. Destroy them in their prosperity. All the people that are siding with him, that are doing good, going to wipe them out. He shall even rise against the Prince of Princes. That's Jesus Christ. But he shall be broken without human means. And the vision of the evenings and the mornings, which was told, is true. Therefore, seal up the vision, for it refers to many days in the future. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick for days afterward. I arose, went about the king's business. I was astonished by the vision, but no one understood it. No one understood it because it wasn't for their time. Not even close. For a time at the end, remember? We read it. Now, I know this is a lot of information. Go read it for yourself. I think this is happening right now before our very eyes, because I really find it interesting that Iran, which is literally mentioned here in Daniel 8, has been attacked by aerial forces not touching the ground, and it was a strike great angle. You remember whenever Trump was talking about, before he got elected the second time, he was talking about, I'm going after Iran. Because if they take me out, I've left explicit instructions to annihilate them. That's fierce anger. Is that not fierce anger? Ran at him with, what does it say? Ran at him with fierce indignation? No. Where was it at? Here we go. Where's the goat at? Here it is. Furious power. Ran at him with furious power. So again, I could be wrong, but it just, it gives such a specific time frame and times, and it lists specific entities. The only one not being specific is the one of Grecia. And it may be that it's supposed to be a mystery. It's like Mystery Babylon. It's supposed to be a mystery. It may be that it's a mystery on purpose. Because if people figured this out, and me telling it, nobody's really paying attention anyway. But it may be that people aren't supposed to figure this out, or are supposed to, oh, you're not reading that right. You're not interpreting it right. I'm not interpreting it. I'm looking at what the angel said. But they're literally giving the interpretation of the vision. and just applying it to what we see right now, because it clearly says this is for the time of the end. Interesting to note that the nation that did the most damage came from the west, across the whole earth, not touching the ground. And that every other nation has multiple leaders, not just one. We're the only nation in the world with one leader, not multiple. Have you seen the picture of Trump and his council coming out when they were going to go have the talks about this and make the announcement? Did you notice there's 4? Could be the 4 people the nation gets broke up to. I don't know, because I think this is about to unfold real fast. Next couple of years. Now, if we give what the Essenes have said any credence, and they've been 100% accurate in everything that's been written down, it's thought that John the Baptist was an Essene. It's thought that the Essenes at that time became Christians because they predicted Christ's return down to the week. I believe that's what Ken Johnson said. Down to the week. They knew when he was coming. At the very least, they got it down to the month. Everything they've predicted has been 100% accurate. They say specifically, and if you watch Ken Johnson's videos on this, and what's the other guy's name? Josh Peck. Both of them are working together on this. They said the year 2025 was going to be a year of transition into the final Jubilee, the final 50 years. All these events that have to happen have time to unfold. Well, you know, it could all happen within a 50-year time frame very easily. Next year, we step into that 50-year time frame. Next year, America becomes 250 years old. We just did the big attack here. If this talk about us doing that big attack, what happens next year? You know, we're not going to be here to see the Antichrist. He can't be revealed, like Thessalonians says. He can't be revealed while the restrainer is still here. Personally, and I've said this for several years now, personally, the calculations that I've done and my limited understanding, the calculations I've done show that the most likely time frame for him to return for his church is sometime in the next 3 years. The other indicators I found in the Bible always seem to reference a specific time. Shocked me yesterday, and it immediately reminded me of this. I'm out of my miles. We just mowed pastures. We're standing out there. I hear doves cooing. The sound of the turtle dove can be heard. Spring. April, May, June. Where are we at? April, May, June. So, I mean, you know, you take a puzzle and you dump the box out. Eventually, some pieces are going to stick together by accident. And we just keep throwing these puzzle pieces down, and they're starting to stick together on their own. It's starting to paint a very specific picture. And the closer we get, the more it'll make sense. So what am I saying? And again, my opinion. Do your own research. Test all things. This is just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. Believe men smarter than me, but I'm not saying I'm right. I also know that not all things are revealed to all people. In fact, it's the base of us that he reveals most of the good information to. I'm not saying that's me. But you cannot deny how specific some of these things are starting to collect. And the closer we get and the more that happens, the more specific it looks. If that's the case, and I'll close with this. If that's the case. All this is true. And what that said, and I can't set a date because I don't know the date. He's going to come on a day we do not expect. That's what he said. He was telling the apostles that you don't know the day, you're never going to know it. But the highest likelihood of his return is going to be sometime in the next 2 to 3 years. Possibly April, May, June time frame. Because the grapes have their tender grapes on. Remember what it says in Song of Solomon, in that one chapter that talks about that. Come up, come away with me, my love. The tender grapes are on the vine right now. We got them on our fence right out in my front yard. The green figs are on. The sound of the turtle dove. In other places, like Ecclesiastes, it talks about the almond trees in bloom. That's right now. More and more of these references, you can see quite specifically when it starts to pin it down, depending on the area that we're in. But it's pretty general around the world. And here we have a goat, or maybe a scapegoat, and we have been Israel's scapegoat for a long time. Comes across the whole earth with a notable horn, one leader, across the whole earth, charges at the ram and tramples him into the ground. And that's literally what we just did to Iran. We trampled them into the ground. And I don't think we're done. I think there's more coming. We're going to do it again. And they're still attacking, which means the fight isn't out of them yet, which means that has to happen. They have to have all the fight taken out of them, which means we're probably going to hit them again. So from this point on, watch and see if America gets really strong and powerful and things get really good. I think it's going to be. Guys, next year starts the final Jubilee, as the Essenes have said. Next year starts the final 50 years of American history, the 120th Jubilee. The Essenes said that the reign of the, I forget the full exact termination, the reign of the Lord or reign of the Holy One or whatever is going to start in 2076. That's shockingly specific. And that means everything else has to unfold, which means the seals, which are a separate event. The seventh seal starts the trumpets. These things don't overlap like a lot of people say. The seventh seal starts the trumpets, and contained within the trumpets is the vials and the bowls and all the other stuff. So the trumpets technically would be the 7-year tribulation, because there's 7 trumpets. Every year a trumpet sounds, something new comes, I guess. And somewhere halfway in between that is when all the bunch of other interesting stuff happens. It's all happening before our very eyes. I am more and more convinced this is literally what we're seeing happen right now on the world stage. That the implications are shocking, which means the implications are the Lord's probably going to come back next year to the year after, which would be, well, 2026, 2027, which actually fits pretty good because 2028 would be 80 years. So if you take Psalm 90:10 into that equation, a generation is 70 years, 80 if by strength, but its boast is labor and sorrows. Well, we've did the 70, and now look at what the last 10 have been so far, from 70 to 80. It's been labor and sorrows, and it still continues to be. So it's quite plausible that he will come near the end of that, which would be 2027, 2028, possibly 2026. So we could be getting in a much more specific season. And then the Antichrist will be revealed. U.S. will collapse. Everything will unfold from there. And you read Daniel 12. Daniel 12 gives very specific details about what's going to happen. And I found that very interesting when I did that playlist. And I did Daniel 12. It tells you like almost a play-by-play. And you can see when it talks about the Antichrist and how he flies back to the west, but he has the stuff going on in the east on his mind. And then something happens and he gets called back. I don't know how much more specific we need to get. I don't know how much more of these details we need to have. So here's the thing. The Lord's going to unfold more of these details. And as we see more, we'll understand more. And I don't expect anybody to believe what I'm saying. Don't think that. I don't. But I do find these parallels very intriguing and very interesting. Again, the architecture of the United States, you saw it. I just showed you the images. The Roman Pantheon and most of our government buildings in Washington literally look like twins. Our way of government is Greco-Roman in nature. You know, it. Again, I can go on and on about this, but you get the point. I think we're seeing Daniel 8 right now. And if that's the case, if that's true, we are living prophecy right now in Daniel 8 and a few other places. That should be exciting to everybody. I'm watching it happen. So guess what? When we get to heaven, we meet Daniel. If this is true, if what I'm saying is true, we meet Daniel. What's Daniel going to say? Hey, so how was it when you guys saw that vision that I had come true? Daniel, you should have been there. It was wild. And most people didn't see it until the very end. And suddenly it became crystal clear. So, guys, that's what I got. We may revisit it again as we're seeing it. You know, prophecy really doesn't, we don't really understand it or see it until it comes to pass. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to keep sharing with you guys. I'm going to keep telling you what I'm seeing and sharing you information I found. You can see I Googled everything. It's super simple to find. Just sift through it, find the stuff that's true, and read the Bible and compare it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. I don't want anybody to agree. I want people to come to their own conclusion on this. Because when I read this and I look at these things, this is super exciting. Because what that tells me is that we're about to end all of this here and we are all leaving. And the Lord is going to come and do what he needs to do. And then we're going to come back with him. So our time here is short. Look up, for our redemption draweth nigh. I love you all very much. I bless you all in Jesus' name. And I'll see you in the next video.